Good morning, Year 3, and welcome to another math lesson. Carrying on with time, today we are going to be looking at the difference between AM and PM. So it should be a nice, fun lesson for us all today. So getting started with our do now. I'm going to share my screen. So do now today is going to focus on reading time to the nearest minute. So you can see we have got some different clocks here and some different times below. What you need to do is you need to match the letter with the correct clock. So what letter does the clock face of number 1 match up with? So just going to need a pen and a paper, or you can just do this saying out loud. So press pause to complete the task, and when you're ready, press play. Fantastic. Here are your answers. That should have been fairly straightforward because it's something we just covered yesterday. If it's something you still need to do a little bit of practice on, remember there are links in the today's home learning document which will help you out with that. So today we are going to be reading time using AM and PM. So to be successful, we're going to be able to identify units of time on a clock. We're going to identify and read intervals on a clock. And we're going to differentiate between AM and PM, which means we're going to look at the difference between what does AM mean in terms of time and PM mean in terms of time. Let's look at some of these key words. Before that, let's do a quick rapid recap. Thinking back to Dr. TikTok, how many seconds in a minute? 60 seconds in a minute. How many minutes an hour? 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. How many hours in one day? 24 hours. Good, 24 hours. Good. So that's going to be that's a good important thing, especially 24 hours in a day. So, and remember, when we're telling time, we either say it's past or to the hour. And remember, once we get past that, half past, it's going to be it's to the hour. Past the hour, to the hour. Good. Star words. Oh, mainly pictures. Day, night, sun, moon. Interesting. Or maybe you can help me with thinking up some star words for today. What words and phrases help us understand what time of day it is? So what words and phrases and sentences do we use to help us understand what time of day it is? Have a think. Maybe you want to say a few out loud? I'll show you a couple of the ideas that I've had. Morning, evening, afternoon, AM, PM, midday, noon, midnight. Just sort of another one. Sunrise, sunset. I wouldn't say cloudy or rainy or anything that's nothing to do with the time of day it is. So you've got morning, you've got evening, you've got afternoon, you've got midday, you've got noon, you've got midnight, you've got sunrise, sunset. These two words, AM and PM, are what we're going to be looking at today. And they actually come from a language called Latin, which is what the Romans used to speak. So AM stands for ante meridiem, which translated into English means before midday. So any time before midday, we say AM, before midday, ante meridiem. PM means post meridiem, which means after midday. So any time after midday is PM, the afternoon. AM, PM. Now you know what those two that means. So this is why we go on so much about there being 24 hours in one day. We must remember that each time happens twice in 24 hours. So we have 8 o'clock in the morning, where some of you might be lucky enough to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock at in the evening, which might be, some of you might be lucky enough that it's your bedtime. So looking at our analog clock face, which is what we've been looking at, and we're going to look at digital clock faces tomorrow, we can see that we've only got 12 numbers on our analog clock face, which means that's why we go around the clock face twice in one day. So each time happens twice in one day, which is why we don't just say, oh, I come to school at 8 o'clock. When do you, what do you come to school at 8 o'clock in the AM or in the PM? That's why we say AM, PM, or morning and evening. Or I go to bed at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the evening. When? It helps us understand what time of day. So we split the day into the following. You've got in the morning, so as the sun is rising, the sun will be rising. In the afternoon, so that will be kind of going towards after lunchtime, towards the end of the school day. In the evening, you're getting ready for bed, you're brushing your teeth, and then at night, which is when, for example, a lot of nature comes out, nocturnal nightlife, and things like that. There's going to be one thing that I'm gonna say now. Just because it is dark, it doesn't mean it's nighttime. It doesn't mean it's PM. We're going to talk about that in a bit. So I want you to have a look at some of these images. So we have got having a bath, eating some pasta, reading a book, going to the playground, working on your schoolwork, or going to bed. I want you to have just to think, and you might want to discuss with someone around you. When would you do these activities? What point in the day would you do these activities? And I know everything's a little bit strange at the moment, but again, let's be sensible. We're not going to have I don't think you're going to go to playground at night because the playgrounds are shut. So try and be sensible. And when would you normally do these activities? So press pause now. Okay, let's have a think. When would you do these activities? So let's start off with, right. Let's start off here, your schoolwork. When would you typically sit down and do your schoolwork? Well, I know speaking to a lot of children in Mandela class, they do a lot of their schoolwork in the morning. So I'm going to move this little fella doing his work to in the morning. When are you normally going to have a bath? Now, some people have baths in the morning. I will normally have one. I'd normally have one in the nighttime. So probably evening, nighttime, one between those. Helps me relax and go to sleep. When would you normally go to the playground? When I walk around the area, I see that the playgrounds are normally busiest in the morning or in the afternoon. Not too early in the morning, though, because not everyone wants to get up really early. Eating a nice big bowl of pasta. I tend to like to eat my main meal in the evening. Some of you might eat it at lunchtime. Reading a book. To be honest, you can read that at any point of the day. I'm going to say I have like reading a nice book in the afternoon. And then finally go to bed. Well, I could say I quite like to go to bed any point during the day, but we normally go to bed at night time. Or you may go to bed in the early evening if you've had a tiring day. Okay. Wonder if you can come up with any other activities that you normally do and put them into these different areas. As I said, things are a little bit different at the moment, so the time we normally do activities is going to be slightly different. So we then split our morning, afternoon, evening and night into a long, it's almost a number line. So it's almost a number line. So you can almost think for example, your nighttime, for example, I view my nighttime as when I go to sleep. So I tend to go to sleep about 10 o'clock. And then I tend to wake up. I get awoken around 6 o'clock. So that is my nighttime. So I sleep from here from 10 p.m. and then I wake up at 6 a.m. So I go to sleep and it's PM, and I wake up and it's AM. You could also, for example, say our school day, our regular school day at Art Franklin starts at around 9 a.m. and it crosses 9 a.m. and it goes to 10 a.m., 11 a.m. and it's now midday, which is 12 p.m. and then it goes all the way through till around 3 p.m. Our school day at Franklin crosses over the midday. Very important though, AM doesn't just mean daytime or when it is light outside. It doesn't just mean PM doesn't mean nighttime or when it is dark outside. As you can see from here, yes, this is daytime, but at the moment, if you got out of bed at 3 a.m. for a drink of water, it will be dark outside. AM does not necessarily mean light. Likewise, PM, for example, if you're lucky enough, PM doesn't mean nighttime, because at 3 p.m. it's not nighttime. It's the afternoon, but it's not nighttime. And I've got these two pictures here. This is the pictures of a place in Norway called Longyearbyen. Longyearbyen. I think that's what it said. Apologies if anyone is Norwegian and I've just really done bad pronunciation. It's right at the top. It's right near the North Pole. It's where polar bears live. For 100 days, around 100 days of the year, the sun never sets, which means it is light for around 100 days of the year. In the winter, it's then dark. The sun never fully rises, again, for around 100 days. So this is why AM and PM we can't just say AM is light and PM is dark. So we're going to watch a quick set of Nessie numbers going on about AM and PM. I've just realised I have not shared my computer audio. That would have been different. That wouldn't have been great. There we go.
Mrs. Minute start walking at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. They call this time midnight.
Let's make a start, Mrs. Minute.
But it's the middle of the night, Mr. Hour.
Please call it midnight, Mrs. Minute.
When Mr. Hour has walked right around the island, back to the 12, it is the middle of the day. They call this time midday. In one day, Mr. Hour walks around Clock Island twice. To remember whether he is going round the first or second time, Mr. Hour calls the first time round AM.
Can't we rest, Mr. Hour? We've been walking all morning.
Please call it AM, Mrs. Minute. Ah, 12 o'clock, middle of the day.
When Mr. Hour has passed 12 o'clock midday, on the second time around Clock Island, he calls this PM.
Are we past midday yet, Mr. Hour?
PM, Mrs. Minute.
Remember, AM is first by thinking it stands for all morning.
Actually, we Romans made this up. AM stands for anti-meridian.
Remember, PM is in the afternoon by thinking it stands for past midday.
As Romans again, it is really Latin for post-meridian.
There we go. There we go. Well, as we said, post-meridian, ante-meridian, all morning, post-midday. just as long as that's what you remember. So your independent task is as follows. You have got some images of some different activities and you need to write a sensible time for in words using AM and PM. So when I say a sensible time, I don't mean, for example, that you would write that you would be reading a book at 2:30 AM, which would mean that you're writing the book, reading a book at 2:30 in the morning when you should be tucked up in bed. So here's an example I've chosen. I've got the boy going to the playground. I'm going to say, for example, 1:30 PM. So after lunch time, so 1:30 PM is time to go to the playground. 1:30 AM would not be time to go to the playground. Looking forward to seeing your answers on Seesaw, and we'll see you all again tomorrow.